What if being seen isn't the goal, but being remembered for something only you can own? Right. Today, I'm excited to welcome Cindy Gordon to Voices of Impact for a powerful conversation about visibility, positioning, authentic expression, and what it really takes to become unmistakable. Cindy is a selective visibility strategist and business mentor who helps female entrepreneurs stop adding more noise to the internet and start becoming known for what actually makes them different. She's a 6X founder, has built 6 businesses and sold 4, grown a brand following to more than 1 million people, built built a 900,000 person community and a 250,000 person email list, which is so amazing, and led a team of 11. So it's very inspiring to hear that. But what I find especially fascinating about Sydney's work is that she challenges the conventional idea that more visibility automatically equals more success. So because today everyone is creating content, everyone's trying to stay relevant, and everyone's trying to be seen, but what happens when visibility without distinction actually dilutes your authority? So Sydney's approach is about becoming selective, intentional, and deeply rooted in what you want to be known for. And that's what I believe in. And that feels incredibly aligned with the conversations we have here at Voices of Impact. Because true visibility isn't simply about getting attention. It's about being recognized for something meaningful, memorable, and uniquely yours. So honored to have you on the show, Cindy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's dive in. So
Okay.
Cindy, there's so much that it's just very inspiring to hear. Like you've built 6 businesses, massive communities, built audiences. This is like a dream for most entrepreneurs. So what did you believe visibility meant when you first started, and how has that definition evolved?
So when I first started, I thought what a lot of people still think is that viral is the answer. So as many eyeballs as you can have on your content, all the things that you're talking about and selling in your business, the better. But what it certainly evolved in throughout the years is actually being able to be recognizable for what your business is actually about, and really verifiable, kind of that proof of human, that there is a person behind it, and having that connection with the customers versus just the eyeballs that are just scrolling on by and don't actually convert.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about who you are and what you stand for, right? And
Yes.
exactly. And, we weren't taught these things. We look at in the business world, especially for me, I'm 4 or 5 years in and I just learned this, but that's why we have these conversations, because for people who are 1 or 2 years in, I don't want them to make the same mistake thinking it's okay to be posting that and following the trends, but is this really like generating the income? But not only income, but is your brand, are you really building your personal brand? Because is it aligned to who you are? Or are you just following something because there's noise, like this is what I'm supposed to do, right? There's always that question. So was there a point where you realized that simply having a larger audience wasn't really necessarily creating more impact, right? Because people think it's like quantity, the number of reels, post 3x a day. But a lot of people I've been, hearing, they're like, I didn't get many, it's all about likes and the numbers, and I'm not really getting the impact I want to make, right? So was there a point that you realized that?
Yeah, I would say it was in business number 2, and that's the one that we scaled to just over 1 million followers combined. In the process of, it was a very rapid scale as far as the follower community. And so while you're in that, it's exciting because you have all these people coming and you're curating the content and you're doing all the trends and you're seeing, likes and all these things, but then you're not seeing it convert, and you're analyzing. The entrepreneur is always analyzing what can I do better? What can I learn from here? And it became clear that there wasn't enough me in there. There wasn't enough of myself. It was just the business. There wasn't the story behind it. So it became very clear that all of the eyeballs weren't converting then. And then from subsequent businesses on, I started to make a change there.
Yeah. Amazing. And absolutely. We're just so focused because that's how entrepreneurs are, right? And we're high achievers, especially women and men, but women especially, we're just like go getting and numbers, and are we hitting the impressions and the views? And we go into analytics mode. And I can relate because I started off as a data analyst, right? I was just very in that tech space. So this is what I did. I did marketing analytics. I did, social media analytics. So when I went into my own business, I was just like, oh my God, I don't have much reach. Oh my God, I don't have impressions. I was so focused on every single person. I had a lot of mentors kept telling me, like, you have to post 3 times a day, Vina, or you're not going to get seen. And I was just like, really? Like, and when we started to do that, I felt burnt out.
Mm.
And I was like, I couldn't be myself. Is this really my zone of genius? And, that got into like starting this podcast, but that's a different story. We'll get into that in a minute. So let's start with what it means to be memorable, right? You talked about me and that connection. So, becoming known for actually makes you different. So, how does someone discover that, like what they should be known for before they
Mhm.
even put themselves out there? Like, where
Mhm.
does it all start?
So I think a common mistake is that we feel like we aren't known for something or we don't have something. I like to use the term unmistakable. Like we don't think that we are unique. But the thing is that every single one of us has unique qualities and every single one of us in our businesses do something so specific and so different from the other competitors in our same niche. It makes us unmistakable and makes us memorable. So sometimes it's just a little bit of excavating and looking at what do I bring to the table that no one else does. It's really kind of the simple questions that I see a lot of entrepreneurs just skip past that. They think, "Oh, it's all in my head. I can figure that out." But it's really kind of those simple questions where you sit down and you think, what do I bring to the table that no one else does? Or what would be missing if my bit went away? And so
Good.
sometimes we have to kind of peel back the layer of the onion there to get down to it. But I think the common mistake is that people think, I don't have anything that makes me different, but it's not true. We are definitely all unmistakable in our own ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your unique value proposition. I always say that is
Mhm.
absolutely. Everyone is unique in their own ways. And it's not about like I said, numbers and logic. It really has to come from within, right? And that
Mhm.
connection to yourself. And that's why it's inner first before external. So I noticed like the reason why I do this podcast is because I worked on the inner. It comes from that self-worth. And we look for external validation, like these are the trends, they did it, this person's doing it. It's very easy to go into Instagram, open it up, and be like, they have 20K followers, and I only have like 1,000.
Mhm.
Or, oh my God, this person's posting every day. I think I need to post every day, right? So we need to kind of take a step back and be like, that's just external validation. Let's go into our internal validation and think about what is different about me, right? That
Mhm.
like, I mean, everyone has a story. It comes from your story. It comes from your
Mhm.
lived experiences. And that's the next question that, where is that unique value proposition? How does it show up in like that storytelling and that lived experiences? How would you like say that if someone were to listen today, like, I don't know what
Mhm.
my true value is, like, how would
Mhm.
you help them navigate this? Like, where do I start?
Mhm. So I'm actually doing that with a group of women this month. And we're kind of going through and doing a little bit of that unsexy work, those kind of questions that look easy on the surface, but are a little bit harder. And we look at what are the things that we went through in our lives, whether from childhood to adulthood, anywhere in between that actually affects the work that we're doing. So that leans into their lived experiences. What have they done and lived through that can certainly help the person that's coming to their business for the same thing, and kind of helping connect the dots. A lot of times we can, buy a PDF template online and go through it, but it's really that talking through it with someone and someone being able to hold up a mirror and kind of really just saying it out loud, I think is the key. Talking to someone and being able to say your story out loud and then actually realizing that those lived experience moments were a lot more important than a lot of us think that they are. And I think that's a part of that internal journey as well. A lot of people come for the external, come in thinking, like let's work on the external things. But really, once you get inside the door,
Yeah.
you have to fix that internal first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the major thing with visibility. And that's just what my thing is, my model and the messaging and the positioning. And
Mhm.
the messaging is different that I can speak from when I was in the
Mhm.
foundational stages versus I'm 5 years in, and where it shifts, right? Your business model
Right.
shifts. And for example, my model was very one on one, very burnt out, masculine energy, working so hard. And that was a totally different messaging. And I was just focusing on numbers. But when you shift
Mhm.
into very feminine led,
Mhm.
business kind of model, it's a different way of shifting that messaging, and it's talking about your story and your lived experiences. And not
Mhm.
only that, but your voice, your presence, right?
Right.
And speaking that truth in that lived
Mhm.
experiences, like, hey, I went deep and I'm vulnerable now. And I think that's why it's very important to be connecting with yourself and connecting to your body, because I post reels and I'm pretty sure you've seen them on Instagram, and
Mhm.
I just don't even schedule. I don't do anything. I just
Mhm.
talk for one time. It comes
Mhm.
from my heart and I post it. Right.
Mhm.
And I just started this. I always do podcasts, but I was
Mhm.
like, what are people these talking about these reels and stuff? So I just went and did it. And I was like, well, it's easy because for me, it all starts within. I don't do a script, I don't follow anything. It's natural because I did the inner work and I don't
Mhm.
have that visibility block. I overcame that fear. And it took a while. Like, why am I scared to put myself on Instagram? And that was my next question, that what are those deeper beliefs? Like we talked about visibility blocks. So someone is like, hey, I
Mhm.
just want to be on Instagram a lot. And I've had people who I reached out saying like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I know we can have this conversation. They're like, yeah, maybe, like, I don't
Mhm.
know, like, and I was like, okay, yeah, and I see that fear and that hesitation, but what are
Mhm.
some of those deeper beliefs? And if someone were to listen right now, like, I
Mhm.
have a fear of being seen, how would you help them
Mhm.
overcome that?
So I think a lot of people, and I don't think we talk about this enough, that over the years, I think traditionally women have seen their voices be quieted in some capacity, whether we truly realize it or not, whether it's out in the community, whether it's inside our home, growing up in our family. So I think there's a lot rooted there. And I feel like as we move through life and community and society changes and we have content in our face 24/7 if we want. There's access to way more than we probably should ever be consuming. But it's good and bad. It puts different voices out there. It kind of is it shows the extreme. It shows the extreme of loud and what loud looks like as a female entrepreneur. And then we have people that are blending in and kind of looking average and not being noticed because they're being quiet. So kind of that somewhere in between. So one of the things that I work on if somebody comes to me with that is I start to have them be selective in what they're looking at and what they're consuming, because the more inputs, so this 24/7 of Instagram reels and
Right.
TikTok and YouTube shorts and all these things, all these voices, all these opinions, all these options, it's just too much. We're flooding ourselves with thoughts and opinions that we don't need and that
Exactly.
continue to kind of shape us and kind of keep us quiet in a sense.
Hmm.
So that would be probably my number one tip, is to start to, you don't have to unfollow accounts. You can mute them or maybe just limit your consumption time of what you're taking in as far as social media.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so important. I tell my family this. So it's very important to be intentional. Yeah.
Mhm.
And whether it's in my personal account or my business account, I always follow things that I feel like resonates with me, with values, like conversations like this.
Mhm.
And I always never follow the news. It's not that I like, obviously, I know I'm aware of it, but I don't follow news or anything negative. There's just so much noise out there. This is
Mhm.
reality. But to your point, we can choose not only the reels, but who we also have conversations with, right? And even in my own community, in my mastermind, a lot of women were like, hey, like, what is it about? I was like, we're just very intentional, even about who we bring in our community. So, my
Mhm.
community, for example, or the people I talk to, even on my podcast right now, and I put it on
Mhm.
my website, like, it's an invite only community. It's an invite only this. And not to be like, oh my God, Vina is just like rude. It's not about that. It's just about people who have really done the inner work and they're really doing their personal growth. They're not here to share
Mhm.
negativity and the
Right.
wrong stuff. So being selective about what's on your feed, what's on your internet, like on your tabs, I
Mm.
always have people, especially feminine, right? Like, are you doing your meditation this morning? Are you actually regulating your nervous system? Are you writing your I am statements, right? And I always look at that every single weekend. Are you journaling? Yes, these are my fears. Where is this coming from? Is this wounding that I've had because, it came from the society or a family, right? So in my mastermind, we have 5 people, and we were there was always this theme that came up, like fear of speaking up, right?
Mhm.
Shrinking. And that was my story as well. I couldn't own my voice. I didn't have the space to like really speak up. I come from
Mhm.
a very conservative background, a woman of color. And the fact that I'm here talking about this today itself is like interesting to me because
Mhm.
we never had these conversations. Every single time I would talk about something, my mom would be like, why are you saying all of this? What are they going to think? Oh my
Mhm.
God, what if your family hears this, right? It's a typical thing that I hear. And I had to work through those societal stuff, like conditioning of like, we not play small. And it really started from that. And that's how I really broke free from that
Mhm.
conditioning and that limitation when you
Mhm.
talked about the shrinking, right? So,
Mhm.
absolutely. And to my next question is
Mhm.
when you are more visible, you
Mhm.
gotta overcome that. So you're going to be, you have to be open to like that comparison, being misunderstood.
Right.
And that was something that was a huge wounding that I had. I always wanted that validation approval. Like,
Yeah.
if I post something, I want them to like it. Or what
Mhm.
if I get that comment and they don't like it? Like, what if they say something? Right. So
Mhm.
what happens when someone realizes that? And like, is that something that you can help them? Or how are you helping them with
Mhm.
overcoming that? Like, hey, it's okay to be misunderstood and still put yourself.
Mhm. So it really depends upon how the person's coming into me with it, whether they're still doing the internal work or whether they still kind of are stuck on that external piece first. So I think the easiest to look at is maybe that external piece and breaking it down to we want to attract and we want to repel customers. So
Exactly.
we're all in a business of some kind. So it is important that we attract the people in
Yeah.
that we are going to be able to help and to serve with our gifts and our zone of genius. And we repel out the people that are not for us. So I think it comes from that generational people pleasing and all. I think everybody can relate to that to some capacity, that people pleasing part. But I think looking at it from that external piece of breaking it down to a simple business concept. We want to attract the people in that we can help and sell our service or our products to and repel out the people that are not for us. So we do that when we lose a follower or we get a negative comment, or sometimes I have clients come in and they've had a mass exodus in their email list,
Yeah.
which is fine. So we have to look at it as, thank you for being here for the time that you're here. I hope that you took something from me and like thank you so much and best of luck. Like we're not a match. And that's okay
Right.
because we don't want people in our world taking our voice and our energy that we're giving out and they're not able to use it. So the more people we can get in, I feel like it just continues like that ripple in the water. So
Yeah.
kind of looking at it like that.
Yeah. And I love what you just said. Absolutely. Right. So,
Mhm.
I mean, everyone, when you're being truly yourself and authentic, and anyway, it's not just visibility content, even in your own life. And you're going to have people who are going to be like, I don't resonate, she sucks, or whatever. That
Yeah.
is reality. That's reality. And you're going to have people who are like, oh my God, like, thank you so much for saying that. You're an inspiration. Right. I just love your energy. I've had both. Right.
Mhm.
And this has happened in every aspect of my life, personal,
Mhm.
professionally, but I still went for it. I still stay true to myself. And to your
Mhm.
point, at the end of the day, I attracted I would say, like my tribe, my people, right?
Yeah.
And I repelled the wrong ones who weren't aligned. At the end of the day, I always say this out loud,
Mhm.
alignment over attachment, even with my
Mhm.
team, even with my other anything, right? Relationships, dating. This could be in any aspect.
Mhm.
If something's not aligned and they don't resonate, they're gonna be like, I've honestly been the misunderstood person, right? And I was like, okay, some part of me kept telling me for so many years, am I doing something wrong, right? Is it me, right? But it's not. You're just talking to the wrong person.
Right.
It's about wrong person. It's just a lesson. And these are lessons. When you meet people, it's kind of showing you like, okay, well, why do I need that approval? Why do I feel this way? Like, I just need to stay true to myself. And maybe they just don't resonate. And that's okay. But
Right.
I shouldn't have to play small and shrink just because like I got a bad comment. So you just have to be in your power and your authentic power and your authentic voice and just fully be present and unapologetic. And to Cindy's point, the wrong ones be like, you suck and all that. Well, we don't need that, right? That's okay. I mean, you want to think that way about me? That's fine.
Yeah.
But the right ones, I'm telling you this right now. On this podcast, it's been 55 episodes. And I just started this saying like, hey, we're going to be speaking these truths. And I had a fear, like I'm going to be talking about this. It's a whole different visibility. So my reach is going globally at this point right now. So everyone's listening on every single country. And I was saying, what are they going to think? Am I going to just get so many bad comments? But at the end of the day, I never got a bad comment, but I got so many people who came and resonated. Like, I truly understand where you're coming from. We've had this ego death. I went through this identity shift. I went through a divorce. Like, I turned that pain into power. Like, thank you so much for sharing this. It's very different from a different podcast that you've created. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that, because the reason why I just stayed in my own comfort, I was so scared that I would be misunderstood. Right. So when you really put yourself out there, especially I would recommend people getting on podcasts, getting in speaker stages. Yes, there does come a fear, but when you're stepping into your next self, you have to break through that fear. But at the end of the day, you will meet your right people and align people. And at the end of the day, it's more quality over quantity, right? So not quantity over quality. I'd rather have 5 people telling me like, this is inspiring than have just a group of so many people who are not aligned. I've been through that stage and I was like, I just felt more drained, and that affects your energy as well.
Right.
And that was my next question. So in my case, like people kept telling me as a marketing strategy, all of that. Yes. I do agree. Like you do have to, I do like 3 times like episodes a week for my podcast to get that reach, all of that. But there's a level of this, some might people call it the woo-woo. I don't believe in that, but it is important to have that frequency, right? Be in your aura and frequency. And I say that aura is kind of like your new marketing strategy, because for a feminine woman and that woman entrepreneurship, that's what helps you, especially when you get clients. They pay you because of your visibility and your story and who you are and your presence. So we'll love to hear that from you, is how you would help someone say like, hey, yes, there's a strategy, but at the end of the day, it's really your aura. So what does aura mean in this case, if for visibility reasons?
I think that's a great question. And I can relate it back to, I've been almost 18 years into this business process, which sounds crazy when I say it out loud. And I would definitely say that when it comes to the aura and that feeling and the woo-woo side of it, I've certainly been on a roller coaster journey. I've been on every end of it, I would say. And so I think what I would do if someone came to me is I would share my story of that, of the different times and the different ends of it that I've been on. And I can with 100% say that the times where I was most myself and most regulated and just really in it for all the right reasons and aligned is when my businesses did the best. One particular business that I had sold, I was struggling to let go of the business and I felt like it could do more, but I wanted to sell it. And I just wasn't in a good place. And I did some work and I let it go. And I got to kind of just really into my aura, and I was able to, I feel like, let everyone know, let the universe know, like, yes, it's time, like I am there, and it's sold for a great price, but it didn't do it until I kind of let that block go. So I think if someone came to me, I would relate it back to all the different times throughout my business journey of what it looked like when I was on the lower end versus kind of the higher aligned end. And how my business, like what I was doing and how my businesses looked and reflected that. Because it certainly, in my experience over the last almost 18 years, has reflected it. If I am very aligned and in a good place, my business are doing well.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
if I'm not aligned, they are not doing well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very related.
Right. And it's inspiring that, like, you went through that trial and error and you're self aware, right?
Yeah.
That this is what's going on, when I'm not
Mhm.
online, this is happening online. I love that because
Mhm.
we don't take the time to slow down. You know how it is with
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. We want to hit the targets and the revenue. And I was talking to some people, and they were like, I thought they were happy. Like, oh, I'm like 7 figures in, 8 figures in. But they came to me and they were like, we have the money, but then it's inconsistent. Or like, I don't know if I feel like I'm fulfilled.
Mhm.
Something's not, there's a misalignment somewhere. And I'm like, okay, right. So if your internal's like shaky, your external's going to get shaky as well.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
this is something that honestly took a while for me to understand because I wasn't taught these things. I just listened to a podcast and I listened to so many podcasts on the weekends. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, like really? And I understood like maybe that's why my business was inconsistent because I had a similar thing. It would
Mhm.
grow and then it would just get stuck. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what is going on? Like I thought I'm doing everything correctly, like this, business mentor told me to do this and I did that and I followed
Right.
everything correctly. Like, why is it still, I kept having this question. And then I shifted the whole business model and I was like, okay, maybe I'm not putting myself out there in a way that shares who I am and my energy because I just
Yeah.
wasn't in my energy. I
Yeah.
didn't have that aura. I was like, I didn't even know who I was. Like, I knew that, but I was like, I was just so stuck in my head all the time.
Mhm.
So I love when you said people were like, hey, Mina, like when you write content, don't think about anything. Just feel into it. Like just go
Mhm.
into your body for a minute and feel what you want to say. Right. And I was like, just follow your intuition. I was like, that is so hard for me to do because my whole life, it's always about
Right.
a roadmap. Like I just pre-scheduled my thing. And I was like, suddenly, like, how do I feel and how do I talk about this? Like, I don't know. Right. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate. But now I just like, okay, let me just feel something and just say it.
Mhm.
Right. Just say it without, I don't care how I look. I
Mhm.
don't care what people think. Let me just say it. This is the truth that comes out for me. And whoever resonates, resonates. I don't
Mhm.
care if the likes or anything. And
Mhm.
a lot of people just really resonated and reached out. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's what they want to hear because that's exactly what we don't talk about. So, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's really that aura, that personality, that energy.
Mhm.
You have to be in your energy first, right? You have to know yourself in and out. What I mean is, what do you value? Who you are?
Mhm.
What are your deepest, superpowers, right? If you're resilient, share that truth. These kind of things, right? I went through this journey of healing. I went through this identity like shift and the ego death. And it just went this way and it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. And they
Mhm.
were like, I always had this, people would come to me saying, like, Vina, you're so perfect and this and that. And I would understand what people meant. And I was like, am I really showing it that way? And I realized I just didn't share my story. And I was
Mhm.
like, let me just be real for once. Like, things are not happening the way I want it. This is the reality, but this is what I did to overcome it.
Mhm.
Right. So at the end of the day, like those are the kind of things that people want. And it shows through your presence and just being in the moment and just sharing that with the world. So, and thank you so
Absolutely.
much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
my next question is
Mhm.
without constantly creating content and writing,
Mhm.
especially for a lot of people come to me and to want to be speaker and get paid speaking opportunities. I want to hear from you and
Mhm.
just put them out there on stages. They're
Mhm.
like, yeah, there's different levels. I can get on podcasts, but I'm scared to get on like a stage.
Mhm.
How would you help them build that personal like powerful brand that really kind of aligns with who they are and it
Mhm.
starts from within? Like how would you help them without like, I have to post a reel today or I have to do a video thing today?
Absolutely. So I think we'd be very selective about it and figure out what is unmistakable about their brand, who they serve, and where they want to show up. So just keeping it very simple. So once we have kind of that foundational messaging, that message clarity, which when you're solid in that, you can talk anywhere about it, whether it's on content, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's up on stage. But we don't have to jump into all of those things that might seem so scary at the beginning. But we would, after we have the messaging foundation clear, then we would look at where they're comfortable showing up. And then we would look at where their customers or their potential clients actually are. Where are those people hanging out? And then we would find a nice blend of that feels comfortable. And that would be our starting point. So whether that's speaking on podcasts, and then that would be phase one.
Right.
And then we would stretch it just a little bit more as we're getting our confidence built and getting comfortable. And we're looking at the data. What are we getting from what we're putting out? Are we getting clients and customers in? Are we getting the visibility that converts to our business? Does this still feel aligned? And just tweak as we go. So it's a very intimate process, especially when I'm working one-to-one with someone. We're talking all of the things, the internal and the external of what's happening, but I meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And if they need to start slow and be something on a platform or an event, a live person event that maybe feels a little more safe, then that's where we start there. Or if they're everywhere, because that's also a form of hiding and being kind of invisible, you can not show up or you can be everywhere and be diluted. Then we start subtracting and pulling back places, because sometimes we're showing up places where we're not comfortable and our message isn't getting conveyed clearly. And so it's not doing its job there. So I meet them exactly where they are and kind of analyze on an individual basis of where they're coming from internally for visibility, and kind of go from there as to what makes sense for their business and their brand, and figuring all that out.
Amazing. Yes. And yeah, meeting them where they are is really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we don't want to push you into something that you're not ready for. And it's
Right.
okay, right?
Right.
Like I said, everyone is in that liminal space. We call it messy
Mm-hmm.
middle. And of course, you need to take the first step, but, and I think overcome those internal blocks, but start small at the end of the day. There's no
Absolutely.
rush at all, right?
Right. Right.
And it's about slowing down, and even if it's like 3 podcasts or 1 podcast
Right.
or whatever that looks like. And that's how I've been doing with my speaking opportunities. Like I got some paid speaking, but I start small. Like it took me some time to get there. I actually just, people are like, "Hey, I want to get paid speaking," but I tell them like, "We want to make sure you're building your positioning a tad bit.
Right.
So have like a speaker bio, just ready, just a simple one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simple, like, and then go into a speaker reel and then a landing page, right? I've
Right.
seen, I still have, I kind of help my clients with these, like building their landing pages. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes them stand out. Then, just before they kind of put themselves out there saying like, "Hey, I want to speak. Like I want to, speak and get paid." Right. So start with like small webinars. I get sometimes, I get paid to just do like a 1-hour webinar. Right. And start from
Mm-hmm.
there and then go to the stages and then go to global. Right. Because I know
Right.
some people, we want just like, I want that and I want
Right.
this. And, so, and of course, when you said, yes, do not be on all platforms and dilute that message is very, very important. I see so many people who are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and I'm just like, okay, let me just either just stick to one platform or max 2. So as a career coach for the past 4 or 5 years, executive coaching, my only thing was LinkedIn, right? And that's how I attracted clients. They just resonated with the message. As I shifted into entrepreneurship, it's like LinkedIn and IG, right? So it depends on where you're pivoting, but I do max those 2, right? But I don't do IG as much. I have this as my platform. The podcast has a really good reach. So analyze like out of the 3, what has the most reach to what your audience is listening. If they want in-depth conversations like this, I would recommend. Even another person told me, she was like, "Vina, like if you want to attract these kind of people, I'm so glad you started the podcast because they're listening globally, and you will see that most of like I've been noticing whoever reaches out to me are like in the 7 to 9 figure range." And that was like, oh wow, because they like that depth. They like these conversations about wealth and like true visibility and authenticity, right? So it depends. And that was something that no one told me. They were just like, stick to Facebook and stick to this. And I was like not getting aligned audiences. And that was a huge struggle that I want to share, that For a long time, I thought something was broken in my system, but in reality, the system was fine and all of that. I just did not reach the right audiences
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a person who's a very in depth, authentic person, but I was
Mm-hmm.
on very groups that just like surface, right? Just like to scratch the surface. And I was
Right.
like, why am I getting this? Is it because it was a messaging problem? It was the wrong platform. And then my mentor went deeper, and I want to thank him and say, Bina, you should start a podcast because this is your gift, right? This is your
Mm-hmm.
gift to share this voice, and it's going to reach a lot of people on Spotify and Apple the more you go on it. And I just didn't, was like, are you sure? But that's how I learned it from listening to different podcasts. So when I did that immediately, I'm getting 30 people reaching out on 30 plus per month, and they're all in that aligned. They're super aligned. So I just magnetized it. And that's another question that I
Mm-hmm.
have for you. So a lot of people, entrepreneurs, female especially, are like, and I still see this happening later on, like 6, 7 years in, 10 years
Mm-hmm.
in, chasing clients, right? What I mean by
Yeah.
chasing is like, yeah, I have this program, I have this, I have that, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a discount there, and
Right.
I was like, do you feel like that is the right way to do this? Or, let me share my story. And that aura we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
it magnetizes because the more you're in
Mm-hmm.
your higher frequency, like I said, I'm going a little back into that.
Mm-hmm.
People might call it woo woo, but it's a real thing that the
Mm-hmm.
more I'm higher in my frequency, the universe just
Mm-hmm.
brings me. I just magnetize it because there's that magnetism. I never have to chase people who want to pay me something. I had
Mm-hmm.
someone come on the podcast and I talked to her for 2 minutes and she was like, Lena, you're just magnetizing right now. I want to pay you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
willing to pay you whatever you feel because I really like what you're doing, who you are. So that is something that's real, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What would you tell female entrepreneurs like who are like, I need to keep chasing and putting my program out there versus like you can just share a message and you can magnetize these opportunities?
So I think it also comes down to what your business is. So sometimes when you look at it for the higher ticket type of business or the higher ticket sales, I feel like there it's so much easier to be able to, not easy, that isn't really the word because we all work really hard for what we
Right.
do, but being able to put it out there and attract it in. I have a mentor that shared a quote that everyone cannot wait to pay me. So this is something like getting into that frequency of just believing in yourself and knowing that you're in your zone of genius and this is your gift. And if you are not giving your gift, then you're actually doing a disservice because you're not selling. So going into whatever you're creating and thinking, everyone cannot wait to pay me instead of I have to get that next sale. Because as soon as you start that mindset shift or that reframe almost to that negative, it's that chase and it's that desperation and that urgency. And your audience can feel that. I think we see a lot of that urgency and that chase with a lot of more low ticket
Mhm.
things that people are selling where they have to really churn it out. And in that case, they almost do need the viral eyeballs because if somebody's just buying an $11 PDF on something, then they can have kind of that energy of that urgency and that frequency because it's kind of a no-brainer. But the clients that I work with primarily are in that higher ticket space where they're attracting people in and they can go into it with that mindset of everyone wants to pay me so I don't have to chase everything is calm and just staying in that energy. And I think once you have that mindset shift, everything changes. But I think it goes a step further too in life, so it's not just in business. So if you're not regulated and feeling calm with your bills in your household and all of those types of things, especially when it comes
Right.
to that money piece, then it's not going to be regulated in your business either.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a complete different shift. And that was a huge thing, that survival mode. And I still see people go in. And I love what you said
Mhm.
first of all about the low ticket, high ticket. Absolutely.
Mhm.
There's a difference.
Mhm.
And when you start with especially the people when I was in the foundational 1 to 2, 3 years, It was very like low to mid ticket. It's a complete
Mhm.
way of being, right? It's
Mhm.
a complete thing. I actually had to put myself out there and ask, and, it was very like masculine energy, but high
Mhm.
ticket was just really resonating with me. That's just who I naturally am. So
Mhm.
I shifted that model to like, currently my offer is 10K, right? So it
Mhm.
took me a while to go from like a 2K to 10K, but the energy is completely different. And it was more, I just shifted from that scarcity, and I was there for so many
Mhm.
times. And we had to let go, right? I had to
Mhm.
let go. That was another fear of like, what if I don't get the sale? What if they don't close? What if they don't say yes, right? Because I really
Mhm.
want this.
Mhm.
So you have to let go, like to the universe and the time, right? We cannot force someone. It's a choice
Right.
whether they want to step into their next level identity, right? So
Right.
we're not here to like tell them what to do. It's like we need to show it. Like, this is where you are.
Mhm.
This is what you deserve.
Right.
It's your choice. You want to step into that. Are you really truly committed to your growth? That's for you to answer.
Right.
And going into the money mindset, and I was
Mhm.
actually like training my team member on this as well. And there was a difference in identity, right? And she was like, I was like, "Are you really committed to your own growth?" Right? What is the what is the opportunity cost, right? It's
Mhm.
very different. And usually in the high ticket space, like if you're talking to like, 7, 8 figures, it's not about the money. It's more of like
Mhm.
time and going through that. So it's going from that scarcity mindset, okay, I need the clothes or I need this versus
Right.
I'm just here to give value. Right.
Right.
So I just tell my team members, like, we're here to just give value. Right. At the end of the day, we're not here to just push them into something. That's their decision to make. Right. And when someone was like helping, when I invested in something, it wasn't because it was not about them. And that's what they were telling me. Right. It's not about us at all. It's like
Mhm.
I asked them, like, is this really important to you? When you're paying me money, it's energy's money. Right.
Mhm.
So you're committing to your growth, right? This is not
Mhm.
about me. Like, I'm paying you. It's a transactional thing.
Right.
I'm asking you, like, do you want to invest this much money into yourself? Do you believe in that? That
Mhm.
it's a tool to get you to the next level. And it was a complete different shift. It was the abundance mindset. It
Mhm.
was like growth mindset. Like it's growing, helping me grow to go to the next level. And that shifted the whole thing. Right.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. And that's exactly is
Mhm.
the mindset piece. And we really have to go into that similar thing with
Mhm.
visibility, that I'm just here in the moment being myself and I'll attract the right people. And I know my aligned clients will come in and buy just because, of course, you have to short your strategy and framework, definitely. But it's mainly because they want your energy. They want access to who you are and they're
Right.
inspired.
Right.
My mastermind, there it's not about logistics and stuff. It was more like, I want this access to the energy that you have, Vina. Like, I just want to be in your inner world. This is so rare. And that's also a part of the visibility. When we went back to UVP, the unique value, your energy is your you at VP. Right.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's not your strategy and this, I help statement, which
Right.
people always keep telling me. And I was like, that is true, but it's just your energy and your access and your wisdom that people wanting to hear. Like at the end of the day, like what is something that you can tell me not every business guru is telling me, right? So,
Right. Right.
and yeah, and I know I have one more
Sure.
question, and
Sure.
this is really exciting for me because this is so important. Even though we're putting this out there, right? So I know people globally are listening, but what would you say is the difference between building an audience and building a legacy? When we talk about high ticket,
Mhm.
there's a difference, right? And I know
Right.
you have communities. I have a
Yep.
community. I built my community because I'm thinking about long term and my legacy.
Mhm.
And that is an extension of me building my audience, right? So
Mhm.
if someone would listen to this and they're similar to you and I,
Mhm.
what would you say is the difference between just like, hey, I'm just building an audience or
Mhm.
a community versus like this community is a representation of a legacy I'm building?
So I think when it comes to audience I would look at is just eyeballs that are scrolling by.
Hmm.
They see it, but they're not hearing it. They're not fully listening
Exactly.
it. But your community and a legacy, I would relate it back to the dropping a stone in a pond and the ripples keep going. So when I look at building a legacy, I look at having one inspiration, one motivation, whatever it is from what I do in the middle. And then it just keeps waving out to all of the people in the community. And it encourages them to continue with their legacy and their business and sharing their gifts. And so when we get into that process, it just keeps going. So it's actually effective and it's fluid and it keeps moving. Whereas an audience is just there. They're not really doing anything. You're not fully being seen. You're not fully being heard. You're not making a difference.
Absolutely. And that's the difference, right? And
Mhm.
thank you so much for clearly
Yeah.
explaining that. And everyone who's listening, because I know there are people out there who are like with the numbers. And like I said, I have conversations every day and they're like, I just don't have the views. People are not reaching out. And that's the difference. There's a difference when you have an audience. Like you might have the numbers, but you're not feeling seen and heard. Like it's not going to help.
Right.
Right. So that's why we say it's very important with their messaging. Speak your truth, speak who you are, be your authentic self. It attracts the people who want that deeper aspect, your energy. And when you have an audience, it could look like your Instagram feed. For me, it's like the podcast, it's for my community. My community is an invite only. I told people, like, this is not your typical community, it's a collective of a legacy, right? So Sovereign Rise is a global collective, which is a legacy. We're here to have a ripple effect. If I'm sharing my gifts, you're going to be able to share your gifts, right? You're going to be able to be yourself. You're going to belong. And it's a complete different shift of paradigm. And they were just like, you know what? You're going to bring a group of people who believe in that values of sustainable business, right? Sustainable business growth is thinking long term, is thinking legacy, right? It's not like I'm just here for money and revenue. And money is important, but at the end of the day, that's wealth, right? So wealth, we talk about wealth. We talk about generational healing and trauma because that's all tied into this. Wealth means financial freedom. So we shift the paradigm of success, right? So it's you want to make sure you know the difference in who you're talking to. Are we all really talking about the right things? What we truly want from it's really about the values. And even for my team that I hired, I asked these questions. I was like, what do you truly value in your next role? Like, are you looking for financial freedom and time freedom? And we talk about these things even with my team. And they're like, I totally get where you're coming from because my legacy's ripple effect. It doesn't matter if it's my kids or my clients or it's my team members. It's my job to get that ripple effect. And you also build your business. So I had one or two team members say like, hey, I'm also building my own coaching business. So I'm learning from you about how to build that sustainable business, right? So you want to make sure anyone you bring into your world resonates with you and aligns with you really well, right? And that's your true audience, right? Not just like, that's where not only do you feel seen and heard, but everyone around you in that audience or community, in your team or whatever, feel seen and heard and truly belongs, right? So amazing. So yeah, I think this was an amazing conversation. So thank you so much. And how can people connect with you and your work, Cindy?
So you can connect with me on Instagram at exclusively Cindy, or you can find my website at exclusivelycindy.com or on LinkedIn at Cindy Gordon.
Amazing. So, yeah, I think this was a really important conversation, Cindy. So it brings us back to something I think so many leaders and entrepreneurs need to hear. So being seen is one thing, but being remembered for something that is uniquely yours is another, right? So really about making the impact. So the one thing I would say is just talk to someone in your, group or we call your audience and see that did this person feel inspired today? Did they feel seen and heard? Did I make an impact? Even if it's one person in your audience. So that's when you know that, you're in the right path for true visibility, right? And it's not just for in trends. So you don't need to be everywhere to do this. You don't need to constantly create more content or chase or follow every trend because that's not how Cindy and I don't do that at all. People ask me like, do you only have this many followers on Instagram? Do you have this? Do you have a website? And I was like, I just am in my thing. I do my podcast. I have my community. That's all I need, right? And I have a group that makes me feel seen and heard. And I do the same thing for them. And we're having this ripple effect. And they're like, oh, like I didn't know that was a thing, right? So that's why we're here today to say that there is way to do it in a feminine way and not have to chase and grind and hustle. So sometimes the real work is getting clear about who you are, what you stand for, and what you uniquely bring, that your visibility becomes the byproduct or the extension of your identity. Right. So not the performance. You're not here to perform. And that's a big part of what we're creating through Sovereign Rise. As I mentioned, this is our community that's very invite only, intimate. We talk about global movement and legacy. We have you share your message, your voice, your expertise that can be seen and remembered. Right. So we curate experiences like to try to help you amplify your messages through these kind of features on podcasts, wearing a roundtable soon, collaborations, speaking opportunities. I actually help you get into paid speaking. We're bringing so many people in, so it's very nice. It's been really lovely so far that we have these kind of conversations. So we just don't believe visibility is about being everywhere. It's fine if you don't have a social media presence, right? It should be about being in the right rooms. So we bring you the right people to you in the right rooms with the right people and around the right message. So the right opportunities can find you. You don't have to like search for them everywhere. You magnetize it. And ultimately, it's about moving on from how do I get seen to what do I want to be known for? And how do I create an impact that lasts, right? Within personally and professionally. So that's the kind of visibility and legacy we're creating inside Sovereign Rise. So if you're looking for, we call it movement or collective, that values both inner transformation and tangible, sustainable business growth, we'd love to welcome you. And thank you so much again for your wonderful presence and energy, Cindy. I think that's what I love about you. And I think that's what I feel energized. I'm pretty sure everyone's listening who's going to feel energized as well. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Voices of Impact. If this conversation sparks something within you, be sure to subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, and we'll see you next time.